I'm the villainess in a billionaire romance novel, forcing the wealthy CEO into marriage using my family's influence. Others marry CEOs for love. I'm different. I just want to make some money. On our wedding day, Abner Carlyle throws a contract at me, we'll divorce in 2 years. I smile sweetly, Mr. Carlyle, divorce comes with a separate price tag. Ding! webnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. On the day we got our marriage certificate, Abner slammed a contract in front of me and lit a cigarette. Sign this contract, play the role of my wife, and we'll divorce in 2 years, he said. His expression was cold and dignified, exuding an innate arrogance. His impeccably dressed secretary stood respectfully to the side, the atmosphere as serious as a business meeting. I was impressed with myself for managing to laugh in such a situation. Abner narrowed his eyes, removing the cigarette from his lips as smoke curled around his slightly furrowed brow. What's so funny? I apologize, Mr. Carlyle. I quickly skimmed through the contract, putting on a professional smile. Am I to understand that you're hiring me to pretend to be your wife for 2 years, with a monthly salary? Abner was taken aback. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to interpret our marriage with such cold business logic. But ours was an arranged marriage between wealthy families. He wasn't interested in me, and I wasn't interested in him. He wanted to settle things with money. And I was more than happy to oblige. Abner leaned forward to flick his ash, his demeanor returning to its usual coldness. That's correct. I nodded. Then may I ask what the criteria for a good wife are? It's rather vague, which makes performance evaluation difficult. Abner narrowed his eyes. Did I hear you correctly? Performance evaluation? Indeed. You're the CEO of a large public company. When entering into a labor contract with someone, how can you not clearly define the basic job responsibilities and KPIs? I smiled at the young man beside him. What are your secretaries doing? The male secretary remained silent, frozen in fear. Abner uncrossed his long legs and leaned forward, thinking for a moment before saying, Laundry, cooking, housekeeping. Job content, 1, chef. 2, cleaner. What are you waiting for? Write it down, I instructed the secretary. The secretary hurriedly pulled out his pen and began amending the contract on the spot. Abner continued, Secondly, take care of my daily needs and manage the household. I'll draft a fitness and diet plan for you within 3 days. For other aspects, I may need to wait until I'm sufficiently familiar with your household situation before making a strategic plan. Abner nodded with satisfaction. Thirdly, participate in social events as Mrs. Carlyle and care for the elderly. Very well, Mr. Carlyle. He added, don't embarrass me in public or tarnish my reputation. I was surprised. Mr. Carlyle, you're the CEO of a public company. So what? As a despicable capitalist, you have no reputation to speak of in a socialist country. You're a target for the guillotine. Abner, you can make some donations, do some charity work, so they never discover this fact. I flashed a professional smile. I'm only responsible for not embarrassing you. Enhancing your reputation comes at an additional cost. The secretary looked back and forth. So what should we write in the contract? I stared into Abner's eyes. The party B shall not commit murder, use drugs, engage in infidelity, or perform any other acts that violate public order and good morals. I believe this is what Mr. Carlyle means. Secretary, the contract says the female party. Me, what if I undergo gender reassignment? Abner coldly stubbed out his cigarette in the ashtray. Gender reassignment is forbidden. I'm merely pointing out an imprecision in the contract. As per Mr. Carlyle's wishes, let's add another clause, no unauthorized gender reassignment during the marriage, as it would disrupt Mr. Carlyle's sexual happiness. Hearing this, Abner suddenly smirked. Woman, I won't touch you. I'm not interested in you. This was exactly what I wanted to hear. Note this down, under no circumstances shall Party A engage in physical contact, molestation, or sexual relations with Party B. This is not included in the scope of work. Realizing belatedly that I had set a trap for him, Abner frowned, his well-groomed eyebrows knitting together. But since he lacked interest in me, he naturally didn't care about my little scheme. He rose languidly. Is that all? I have a meeting to attend. I glanced at his long, straight legs encased in suit trousers. I'm sorry, Mr. Carlyle, but this contract only outlines my obligations and your rights. It doesn't mention your obligations or my rights. Abner snorted coldly. What rights does an employee need? Aren't I paying you? You mean the base salary of £300,000? I pointed to the alimony clause in the contract. Abner said coldly, I'm already giving you more than enough for an actress. To him, I wasn't a wife, but an actress playing the role of a wife. But he forgot one thing. An actress's daily rate is more than this. I stood up and pulled out 2 marriage certificates from my bag. I'm sorry, Mr. Carlyle, but we're already legally married. According to the law, marital property is jointly owned. You can't just fob me off with £300,000 a month. I've arranged a meeting with your legal and financial teams to understand your personal financial situation. I turned to instruct the secretary, you should come too. The secretary looked bewildered. Huh? I frowned. What, you expect me to take the meeting minutes myself? The secretary shook his head frantically, then nodded, then shook his head again, thoroughly confused. I picked up my Hermes bag and walked out in my high heels. Oh, by the way. I turned back to look at Abner, who was still standing there in shock, and winked. Please organize your personal account details and send them to my email by 8 p.m. tonight. Abner's face was as cold as frost. Woman, you want to manage my money? Me, I have a senior accountant certificate. Do you? Abner seemed speechless. I smiled. My financial management services for the next 2 years will be charged separately. Thank you. With that, I turned and left. The semi-transparent glass wall reflected Abner's trembling hand as he lit another cigarette. I couldn't help but curl my lips into a smile. Most people marry billionaires for love. Not me. I'm in it for the money. No need to deal with a man's emotions, yet I get to split the assets, and it only takes 2 years. Where else could you find such a good deal? I'm going to be rich. That evening, I tidied up everything at the Carlyle residence, changed into a silk loungewear set, and applied makeup befitting a professional spa manager. I was ready to welcome Abner home. Soon, I heard the sound of the electronic lock. The door opened, and Abner Carlyle strolled in unhurriedly. His tailored black suit accentuated his tall, slender figure from top to bottom. Upon seeing me, his eyes flickered with interest. Why are you dressed like that? I bowed to him with exaggerated deference and said in a sultry voice, Welcome home, Mr. Carlyle. Abner took a step back and scoffed. What are you, a maid? I'm working, I explained with a straight face. I believe how one treats their family truly reflects their character. Abner loosened his tie. Humph, I'm not your family. I stepped forward to help him remove his jacket, saying gently, No need to feel burdened by the term family, Mr. Carlyle. Some TikTok influencers call their followers family too. I led him into the living room. The once cold, modernist luxury apartment was now filled with balloons and fresh flowers. What's all this? I moved close to him, looking up at him with a sweet smile. Mr. Carlyle worked so hard today, I couldn't help but prepare a little surprise to praise you. Abner's lips curled into a mocking smile. Don't think you can win me over with these little favors. He folded his arms, coldly surveying the floral decorations I had arranged, and critiqued mercilessly. Flowers are the most worthless things. They look nice but serve no purpose. Only women like such useless. Oh, what's that? Abner dashed to the table where an Ultraman figurine stood. I followed behind him, apologizing respectfully. I'm sorry, Mr. Carlyle. I didn't know you disliked things that are all show and no substance. I'll put it on eBay right away. I reached out to remove the figurine, but Abner snatched it up before I could, cradling it reverently like Mufasa holding baby Simba. What nonsense are you spouting, woman? He turned back to me with a cold face. All show and no substance? This is Taro. Yes, Mr. Carlyle. The corners of my mouth twitched upward slightly. It was time to reel him in. Oh, by the way, Mr. Carlyle, you seem to have forgotten to give me your personal account details and passwords today, what with your busy schedule and all. Abner's gaze turned icy in an instant. So that's what this is about. What makes you think your little tricks can extract cold hard cash from me? Mr. Carlyle, if I wanted your money, I wouldn't need to resort to tricks. You seem to have forgotten that the law stipulates marital property is jointly owned. Seeing his discomfited expression, I smiled and asked, "Are you hungry? Would you like to shower first or have dinner?" Abner glanced at my face, then his gaze traveled downwards, lingering on my calves for a few seconds before he said disdainfully, "Get that out of your head. I'm not interested in eating you." I asked if you want to eat dinner or shower first. Abner coughed twice. Shower first. I pulled out a dining chair. Let's have dinner first. Taking a hot bath on an empty stomach might make you faint. Abner sat down angrily. Then why did you ask me? So Mr. Carlyle doesn't like discussing things, you prefer to just follow my lead? I smiled slightly. That's fine too, saves me a lot of trouble. He frowned, seemingly wanting to retort. But I didn't give him the chance. I turned on the warm yellow lights and served him oatmeal porridge, cod with tomato sauce, walnut yogurt, and an assortment of fruits. I looked at him fondly. You probably had quite a bit to drink tonight. Have some liver supplements. He expertly picked up the damp towel beside him, wiping his hands clean with furrowed brows. Then he tossed it aside and fixed his gaze on me. Don't think you can win me over. I clasped my hands together and prayed softly. No matter how much you dislike me, I hope you'll take care of your health and work hard to earn money. The growth of our family assets currently depends on your efforts alone. I daren't imagine if you were to collapse on your path to success, turning me into a young widow worth hundreds of millions. At this thought, my eyes lit up. I straightened up, glancing at Abner with a smile playing on my lips. Abner's hand trembled, causing his spoon to clatter against the bowl. He glared at me. I've already written a will. You won't inherit anything, so forget about it. I sighed in disappointment. It seemed that the good fortune of becoming a young widow worth hundreds of millions wouldn't be mine anytime soon. After our late-night snack, I led Abner upstairs and opened the bathroom door. Inside, scented candles were lit, and rose petals were scattered about. A cup of soothing chamomile tea sat by the bathtub. Abner leaned against the doorframe, casually undoing 2 buttons of his shirt before clicking his tongue. Must you always make things so complicated? These candles are supposed to bring good fortune. Abner yanked off his tie and strode in decisively. I turned on the speaker, starting a stand-up comedy routine from the Comedy Store, before closing the door. An hour later, Abner emerged wearing a bathrobe, toweling his hair dry. His robe hung loosely, revealing a broad expanse of damp chest. I stepped forward to adjust it for him instinctively. The fresh scent of his body wash was intoxicating, and I couldn't help but take a deep breath. Abner clutched the belt of his robe, eyes wide. Woman, why are you still in my room? I glanced at my watch, flashing a warm smile. Mr. Carlyle, I'm still on duty. Does being a trophy wife in a wealthy family require overtime? I've always been an overachiever. I looked at his dripping hair. Look at you, your hair's not even dry. Sit down, let me help. Abner grumbled, no need to fuss. I'm not going to fall in love with you, you harpy. If you sleep with wet hair, you'll catch a cold and it might lead to hair loss. Abner, you shouldn't believe everything you read on TikTok. Dampness in the body can also lead to kidney problems. Abner quickly sat down at the dressing table. I grabbed the hairdryer and smiled at him in the mirror. Straight or curly? Abner, do I need to open a tab for this? I ruffled his hair. Your food, accommodation, and image management are all covered within the £300,000 base salary. No need to worry about extra charges. Abner stared blankly into the mirror. Following his gaze, I noticed my own curvaceous figure reflected there. I tugged his hair firmly. He snapped back to attention. You'd better explain why there's a dressing table in my room. Who allowed you to put your things in here? I set down the hairdryer and picked up a bottle of luxury face serum. Mr. Carlyle, for a handsome, wealthy man like yourself, It would be a crime against all premium skincare products not to take proper care of your skin. I turned on the table lamp and gently tilted Abner's face towards the mirror. Be honest with yourself. With looks like yours, don't you deserve your own dressing table? I wasn't lying about this. Abner truly was exceptionally handsome. With his sharp features and striking eyes, he bore a strong resemblance to a young Leonardo. Where on earth did you spring from, you insufferable woman? Despite his complaints, Abner didn't resist further. He obediently sat at the dressing table, allowing me to apply various lotions and serums, massaging his face. 5 minutes later, Abner walked to the bed, looking tired and sleepy. With a wave of his hand, he said, "All right, you can clock off now." I stopped him with a gesture. Then I took the towel from my arm, spread it on the bed, and calmly said, "Take off your robe." Abner chuckled, crossing his arms over his chest. "I told you, I'm not going to touch you." I poured some rose oil into my palm and explained softly, "Yes, but the contract doesn't say I can't touch you. You've been rotating your neck since you came in, and I noticed how stiff it was when I was drying your hair. If you sleep like this, you'll still feel fatigued tomorrow. Before bed, let me give you a relaxing shoulder and back massage, as well as some neck and lower back care." Abner's eyes widened in shock, his expression changing several times. Finally, he lay face down on the bed with a frown, asking skeptically, "Have you had professional training?" I placed my hands on his shoulders, skillfully working along his shoulder blades and applying pressure to his trapezius muscles. Abner melted into the bed, making strange noises. I said, "Mr. Carlyle, you should set aside a morning this week to get a CT scan of your neck and lower back at the hospital." "Abner, have I really reached the point of needing a CT scan? It would help me provide more targeted care for you in the future." "Abner, are you qualified to interpret CT scans now?" I reached my arms around his neck, smiling as I said, "Your third and fourth cervical vertebrae are slightly misaligned. I'll adjust them for you now. You can do osteopathy too? Isn't that a legal practice? Do you have a license?" "Ah." I quickly straddled Abner's waist, pressing down on his back and holding his neck. Before he could react, I whispered in his ear, "Mr. Carlyle, when I reviewed your assets at your company today, I was overwhelmed. I must say, such a large fortune is enough to make one disregard all criminal laws." Abner froze. "Darling, let's talk about this calmly." "Ah," I drawled lazily in his ear, "I just remembered, the company records are incomplete. I still don't have Mr. Carlyle's personal account details and passwords. There's an exhibition room in the basement with a hidden safe behind the wall. The property deeds, bank cards, and gold bars are all in there. The password is stored on a USB drive. With a crack." I forcefully twisted his neck at an odd angle. Abner lay motionless. I chuckled softly, stroking his soft hair. "All right, you can open your eyes now." Abner cautiously opened one eye while still in my arms. "Now turn your head left and right." "Abner, I'm too scared to move. JPG. I draped the towel over my shoulder. "That concludes today's service. Thank you for your cooperation, and I hope you have a pleasant evening." Leaving Abner's room, I went straight downstairs. As I passed through the living room, Abner's phone began to ring. The caller ID showed Caroline Blackwell, rumored to be Abner's true love. It was because of her that Abner had signed a 2-year marriage contract with me, allowing me to earn a fortune. I answered the call, and a timid female voice came through. "Mr. Carlyle. I was wondering if I could come to your house tomorrow morning. I have an urgent matter I'd like to discuss with you." "Certainly." The caller let out a small gasp. "Excuse me, who is this?" Why are you answering Mr. Carlyle's phone?" "I'm his personal therapist. I've just finished treating him. His third and fourth vertebrae were misaligned, he has a herniated lumbar disc, uneven shoulders, anterior pelvic tilt, and irregular periods, so he's gone to bed." "What?" "Caroline, in that case, I'll call him another time." "No need, I've already scheduled you in." "Please come, he'll be up early tomorrow." "Caroline, all right, you're very kind." "Thank you, goodbye. Namaste." One should never forget those who paved the way for their success. I need to meet this woman who's made my fortune possible. The next morning, Abner woke up early. I waited for him to finish washing up, then approached to help with his tie. Abner defensively pushed me away, saying, "I'll do it myself." I smiled calmly and replied, "Mr. Carlyle, Miss Blackwell will be visiting shortly. You should pay extra attention to your appearance." Abner's pupils suddenly darkened. "She's coming? When? Why didn't you tell me earlier?" I gently moved his stiff hands aside and fixed his tie. "I'm informing you now." Just as I finished speaking, the doorbell rang downstairs. "That should be Miss Blackwell," I said, turning to leave, but my wrist was grabbed. Abner frowned. "What are you up to?" "Caroline can't know about our relationship." I stared at the hand gripping mine, his forceful action betraying his nervousness. Abner was indeed as rumored, very concerned about this old flame. But he was overthinking. I had no interest in his love life, nor any intention to interfere. During our marriage contract, my task was to protect this agreement at all costs. After all, I had consulted a lawyer. If we divorced now, I wouldn't get much money. I smiled. "Don't worry, Mr. Carlyle. I already told Miss Blackwell last night that I'm your personal physiotherapist. Today, I can be any role you need me to be. After all, I'm the actress you hired." Abner paused, then released me with a cold snort. "At least you're professional." I rubbed my reddened wrist. Abner noticed and his cold expression flickered with discomfort. He casually tossed me a bottle of ibuprofen. I glanced at it. "Anti-inflammatory and pain relief." "Thank you." Abner grunted and left. Who would have thought the mighty CEO was actually at Sundara? Abner personally opened the door for Caroline. I stood to the side, playing the role of a proper greeter. Caroline had a slender figure and a quiet demeanor. She was like a lily swaying in the wind. Upon seeing Abner, her delicate features lit up with color. Her smile held a hint of melancholy as she said softly, "Mr. Carlyle." When she noticed me, her expression turned startled and uneasy. "This is..." I smiled and bowed. "Hello, Miss Blackwell, we spoke last night." Caroline suddenly remembered. "Ah. You're Mr. Carlyle's personal physiotherapist." I nodded without changing expression. "As well as his personal assistant, financial advisor, housekeeper, and security guard." Caroline looked at my face, then my chest, with a trace of discomfort. "Mr. Carlyle has such a beautiful personal assistant." "You flatter me, Miss Blackwell." "Have you had breakfast? If not, you're welcome to join Mr. Carlyle. I can prepare something for you both." Caroline lowered her gaze and spoke softly, "That won't be necessary. I have urgent business with Mr. Carlyle." Abner took Caroline's hand, his tone firm but with a hint of gentleness. "Let's talk in my study. It's not convenient here with others around." He deliberately glanced at me as he spoke. I smiled and gestured for them to go ahead. Caroline's cheeks flushed slightly as he led her past me. She gave me an apologetic look. When I approached Abner's study door carrying 2 cups of coffee, I heard quiet sobs coming from inside. I immediately set down the coffee and pressed my ear to the door, shamelessly eavesdropping. As an employee, if you don't gossip about the boss in the break room, you're wasting your workday. Through the door, I could hear Caroline speaking brokenly, interspersed with Abner's calm voice. After a few minutes, I understood the situation. Caroline urgently needed money and wanted to sell an old country house to Abner to get cash. But Abner felt the house had no value and refused to buy it, though he offered to give her money directly. Caroline then felt Abner was looking down on her and trying to humiliate her with money. Abner had to change his offer to a loan instead. This led to a series of conflicts between them. I didn't understand. I frowned as I finished listening, then took out my phone to search Caroline's hometown address. Suddenly, it clicked. Just then, footsteps approached the door. I stood up straight, smiling as I waited for the door to open. Caroline's eyes were slightly red. When she saw me, she looked like a startled rabbit. Abner followed behind her, his brows furrowed. "What are you doing standing here?" "Freshly ground flat white," I said pleasantly, looking at Caroline. "Would you like some, Miss Blackwell?" Caroline pressed her lips together and shook her head. Abner immediately said, "She has things to do." I'll see her out. The two of them walked towards the stairs. I followed. At the corner, Caroline suddenly stopped. Her back trembled, her figure swaying slightly. Then Abner's agitated voice came, "Caroline, let me explain." I stepped forward to see Caroline staring fixedly at a large basket of preserved flowers placed at the turn of the stairs. It was a wedding gift from Abner's friend, congratulating us. There was even a card and a photo of us together. Caroline turned around, pointing at me in disbelief, her voice shaking. Why do you have wedding photos?" I calmly said, "It seems we can't keep this hidden any longer." Abner panicked, frantically trying to silence me. But I didn't stop. I walked over, gently took Caroline's hand and placed it on my ample chest, saying slowly, "After all, this is a family scandal. But since things have come to this point, I must explain. Yes, Mr. Carlyle and I are indeed married." Caroline's composure instantly crumbled. In a moment, shock, hurt and confusion flashed across her face. "However," I said coldly, looking at Abner, "our marriage is only a formality." I raised my eyes to gaze at Caroline tenderly. "Miss Blackwell, you needn't worry about anything between me and Abner. I could never have feelings for him, because my ideal type is a gentle and charming woman like yourself." They both looked at me in shock. Caroline asked uncertainly, "Mr. Carlyle, is this true?" Abner's face cycled through shades of blue, purple, black, green and white. Finally, he squeezed out a shaky through gritted teeth. Caroline looked doubtful. I leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Miss Blackwell, there are some things I'd like to discuss with you privately." I took Caroline downstairs right in front of Abner. Left on the stairs, Abner's face was now purely green. Caroline and I sat in the small garden. I handed her a coffee and got straight to the point. "Miss Blackwell, I overheard your conversation with Mr. Carlyle in the study earlier. I know the difficulty you're in now." Caroline held the coffee awkwardly. "I shouldn't have troubled Mr. Carlyle with this matter." I smiled. "He may find it troublesome, but I don't. Miss Blackwell, you could consider selling the house to me. Name your price, and we can sign a contract anytime." Caroline suddenly looked up, her eyes flashing with joy. "Really?" I nodded with a smile. She relaxed visibly, beaming to reveal two adorable dimples. This woman was dangerously sweet. But then she became confused. "But why would you help me?" "Mr. Carlyle said my house isn't worth much." I took Caroline's hand, gazing at her suggestively. "I have my reasons for helping you." Caroline blushed under my direct gaze. Abner was watching us through the living room's glass wall. He stubbed out his cigarette and walked towards us. "Let go of her," Abner said sourly as he approached, practically lifting Caroline up. "It's getting late and you need to get to work." "I'll drive you." I stood up. "Mr. Carlyle, you won't win a girl's heart by being so rough." Abner said coldly, "I don't need your advice." Caroline looked anxiously between us. "Mr. Carlyle, please don't argue because of me." I smiled and held out my phone to Caroline. "Miss Blackwell, may I have your contact information?" Caroline glanced cautiously at Abner before taking the phone. Abner was displeased. "Is there any need for you two to stay in touch?" I smirked. "Girl talk. Men don't need to know." Abner gritted his teeth but could do nothing as he left with Caroline, on high alert. Over the next few days, Caroline and I were in close contact regarding the house matter. I visited her old family home to assess the situation and began drafting the property sale contract. My willingness to invest was a lifeline for Caroline, and she eagerly grasped the opportunity without hesitation. After discussing the details, I personally drove her back to her residence. At the entrance of the rundown, remote estate, a thuggish-looking man with a crew cut was loitering, smoking a cigarette. Seeing Caroline in my sports car, the man's eyes lit up, and he started walking towards us. Caroline nervously clutched her seatbelt and whispered to me, "Miss Wright, that's my brother. Please don't reveal that you're a lesbian. He's quite traditional and old-fashioned." I nodded as the man approached, shamelessly eyeing my car. His gaze towards me was greedy and lecherous. Well, Caroline. I heard you've got yourself a wealthy patron." I didn't believe it at first. Caroline quickly got out of the car and pulled him away. I raised an eyebrow at his ostentatious tattoo-covered arms. This certainly redefined traditional and old-fashioned. I removed my sunglasses and dialed a number. I need you to look into someone for me. Dealing with Caroline's situation took me 2 days. During this time, Abner's mood was visibly sour, and he kept picking faults with me. That evening, when Abner returned from work, I presented him with an elegant fruit platter and a friendly smile. "Mr. Carlyle, is something troubling you lately?" Abner coldly picked up the card from the fruit platter. "Becky Wright, I never thought you were a lesbian." "You've been using me," I replied. "Surely Mr. Carlyle isn't discriminating against my sexual orientation?" Abner snapped, "This isn't damn about sexual orientation. It's about a sham marriage. Deception. You're even competing with me for women." "I haven't wronged any of you," I calmly responded. "Don't forget we signed a contract. I'm just an actress you hired. If you have orientation requirements for the contractor, that's discrimination." I added, "Oh, and please refrain from using profanity. It damages your image." Abner angrily opened the card. "I really regret." As the card unfolded, the electronic chip inside automatically started playing A Perfect Day. Abner closed the card, and the music stopped. Abner opened the card, and the music resumed. He opened and closed it repeatedly. "Are you mocking me?" Seeing his anger visibly rising, I put on a professional smile. "Mr. Carlyle, the reason you're so angry is that you've realized your flirting skills are inferior to those of a woman." Abner's face alternated between pale and flushed. "Becky Wright," I continued, "if you don't mind, I can share some of my experiences free of charge." Abner laughed bitterly. "Ha, you're teaching me how to flirt?" I produced a laptop from behind me and adjusted my glasses. "Could you please provide some basic information about the lady in question and your pursuit efforts so far?" Half an hour later, I presented Abner with a PowerPoint and mind map, unable to suppress a TSK. Abner raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" "There's an issue with your persona," I patiently analyzed. "You see, as a domineering CEO, activities like catching fireflies, stargazing, and showing tender care are typically the job of the backup love interest in standard romance novels." Abner furrowed his brow. "I suggest you quickly correct your persona. Consider the trifecta: pinning against the wall, forceful kiss, and confession." No sooner had I finished speaking than I found myself pinned to the sofa in a whirlwind motion. Abner's face was close to mine. I could feel his warm breath. Abner coldly stared at me. "Is this how you treated her?" I replied, "Different personas require different approaches. This is my private life, which I'd rather not disclose." Abner sneered. "Humph, what persona? You're nothing but a scheming, manipulative woman." I lowered my eyes coyly. "I'm not as good as you make me out to be." "I wasn't complimenting you," I said. "Then could you please release me? You know your wall pinning has no effect on me." "Abner, woman, you're playing hard to get," I retorted. "Is it possible that I'm genuinely gay?" "Abner, with all your tricks, I can't be sure." "Maybe you're bisexual? You're quite the optimist." Abner muttered something under his breath but finally let me go. As I stood up, my phone vibrated in my pocket. It was the hospital. "Mr. Carlyle, I need to use the restroom," I said, adjusting my Askew glasses frame and quickly walking towards the bathroom. The hospital's call, as usual, brought no good news. They informed me that my father's condition was deteriorating and that we should prepare for surgery. I felt a sense of gloom wash over me. After losing my mother, was I about to lose my father too? Perhaps this was the cycle of life and death that adults must face. All I could do now was to preserve my father's life's work. For the next few days, I worked from home while liaising with Caroline about the property contract. Abner was extremely displeased, especially since his numerous attempts to arrange a meeting with Caroline had all ended in failure. The fact that his precious Caroline would rather contact me than him left him utterly bewildered. On a particular day off, I was doing yoga in the basement gym, with the projector screen displaying a PowerPoint presentation prepared by my secretary. After a while, I went to the loo. Upon my return, I found Abner had come downstairs at some point. Abner stood before the screen in fresh workout attire, his brows furrowed, with my mobile in his hand. I snatched the phone back, saying, "Mr. Carlyle, even real married couples should respect each other's privacy." "Your phone kept ringing," Abner said, looking displeased. "Otherwise, I wouldn't have bothered with your affairs." I checked the call log. It was Caroline who had called. No wonder Abner wore that expression. Abner pointed at the B&B renovation project plan on the screen, his face full of suspicion. "Why are you working on a project?" "Oh, you approached Caroline with ulterior motives. What are you planning to do to her?" I sighed wearily. "Is it not possible that I'm an investor looking to invest in her family's B&B? Abner was shocked. "You actually have a job?" I nodded seriously. "More than that, I'm also the acting CEO of Wright Industries." Abner narrowed his eyes, seemingly needing time to process the fact that his socialite wife had a job. I left him to his thoughts and walked out of the gym with my bag. As I drove a few hundred meters away from the Carlyle residence, a black Rolls-Royce quietly followed our car. I fished out my sunglasses from my bag and put them on, pretending not to notice. I had arranged to meet Caroline at a cafe. As I got out of the car, I spotted Caroline's slender figure in the distance. Just as I was about to approach and greet her, a man appeared out of nowhere and grabbed Caroline, pulling her away. The man's tattooed arm flashed before my eyes as they passed. I quietly followed them. In an alley not far from the cafe, Caroline stood on her tiptoes and slapped the tattooed man hard across the face. The sound echoed sharply. She dropped her usual innocent act, her voice shrill. "We broke up ages ago. Can't you stop pestering me?" I recalled Caroline telling me this was her brother. Apparently, not a blood relative, but a lover. The tattooed man retorted, "Caroline, you've really done it this time. Think you can dump me now that you've climbed the social ladder? Dream on. I spent so much money on you back then. $50,000 for a breakup fee isn't too much to ask, is it? Where am I supposed to get that kind of money?" Caroline exclaimed. "That rich lady you've been hanging around with lately, her watch alone is worth 6 figures. You're so good at milking people, $5,000 should be pocket change for you. You're despicable." Caroline spat in his face. "You wretch woman." The next moment, he had her pinned against the wall. They glared at each other hatefully. The tattooed man raised his hand. Just as I was looking around for something to use for a heroic rescue, the man grabbed Caroline's chin and kissed her forcefully. Caroline struggled violently at first, then began to return the kiss passionately. I stood there, utterly confused. I had only wanted to conduct some normal business negotiations with my fake husband's innocent sweetheart. How had things suddenly become so intense? As they continued kissing, the tattooed man tenderly cradled her neck and said, "Caroline, I knew you still had feelings for me. Listen to me, get a big score from that woman, and we'll run away together. I promise I'll marry you." Caroline hesitated. "Let me think about it a bit more." I shook my head, wondering why I had stumbled into their story. Shouldn't they be trying to con Abner instead? As I turned away, I came face to face with Abner's sinister expression. Before I could say anything, Abner cursed and charged forward, grabbing the tattooed man and punching him square in the face. The alley erupted with angry shouts, the sound of fists connecting, and shrill screams. I managed to pull the two apart just before a crowd could gather. Abner's usually immaculate shirt collar was disheveled, and he was breathing heavily with a cut on his lip. The tattooed man was in far worse shape, covering his left eye, which had swollen to the size of a walnut. Caroline was desperately holding him back. "Who the hell are you?" he yelled. "How dare you hit me? Caroline! Call the police! Is there no justice anymore?" Abner let out a cold laugh, pulled out a wad of cash from his pocket, and threw it at the couple. The color drained from Caroline's face. "Damn you!" The tattooed man, enraged again, lunged forward to attack. I stepped in front of Abner and said coldly, "If you dare touch him again, our deal is off." The tattooed man clearly understood what I meant, and Caroline quickly grabbed his arm. I turned back to the battered Abner and said, "It's over now." Caroline, her eyes red, pleaded with Abner, "Mr. Carlyle, it's not what you think. You've misunderstood. I never intended to take advantage of you." "Oh, really?" Abner sneered. You were planning to con my wife. I heard everything, Becky. Cancel her project immediately. Come on, business is business, and personal matters are separate. Don't let emotions ruin a good deal. I quickly tried to mediate between Abner and Caroline. All you care about is money. Abner was on the verge of tears. Didn't you see how they were ganging up on me? They were actually targeting me. You didn't even make it into their script, I replied. I managed to coax the emotionally distraught Abner back to the car, while Caroline calmed down her tattooed ex at the corner of the street. We sat down and signed the contract, and I later told Abner that the area was set to be developed into a tourist attraction. That's a lot of money, I commented. Abner crossed his arms and spat. You're truly despicable. I walked into the study with my first aid kit and found Abner smoking on the sofa. A dim floor lamp cast a yellow glow, making his silhouette look particularly pitiful. I silently approached him. Abner glanced at me and wordlessly stubbed out his cigarette. I sat down beside him, dipped a cotton swab in iodine, and gently turned his face towards me. A fleeting look of embarrassment crossed Abner's eyes. No wonder the woman he had pursued for 6 months had cheated on him right in front of his eyes. And he wasn't even part of the script. The one entangled in their love and hatred was his fake wife. What man could bear such a plot, let alone a golden boy like Abner? I lowered my gaze, carefully examining his injuries as my hand slowly moved closer. Ouch! Abner grimaced. Be gentle. Sorry, Mr. Carlyle, I haven't even started applying it yet. Abner glared at me, and I began treating his wounds. My other hand rested on the sofa, our upper bodies extremely close. He smelled of a pleasant woody cologne. Abner lowered his eyes, lost in thought. Suddenly, he let out a bitter laugh and said self-mockingly, Becky, I can't believe I lost to a man like that. And to me. Abner's gaze instantly sharpened. I quickly added, but Mr. Carlyle, you shouldn't lose confidence over this. After all, you, him, and I are 3 completely different types. Abner scowled. How could someone like that affect me? That's good then. He was Caroline's ex after all. They have their own unfinished business and lingering attachments. You really shouldn't get involved in that mess. He stared at me. Did you know about Caroline and that man all along? I paused for a moment before answering honestly. I had run into him before and had my suspicions, but I only confirmed it today. Abner narrowed his eyes. You deliberately revealed their whereabouts to pique my curiosity. I suppose you intentionally wanted me to witness this scene today as well. My hand hesitated. Mr. Carlyle, what kind of person do you think I am? Abner snorted coldly. You're not in my thoughts at all. What I meant was, I'm not as omniscient as you imagine, Mr. Carlyle. Abner fixed his gaze on me. You get close to Caroline to buy her house, even lying about your sexual orientation. Wasn't that all just to humiliate me? I approached Caroline initially for the money. I finished cleaning his wound and put away the cotton swab, calmly explaining. Later, I discovered there were other men around Caroline, so I had to keep an eye out for your sake. Abner's expression suddenly turned strange. For my sake? I gave him a sincere smile, of course. Setting aside our mutual interests, we've known each other for a while and have a good working relationship. How could I stand by and watch you walk into a trap? Known each other? Mutual interests? Abner scoffed. Becky, you've really fallen into the money pit. I smiled noncommittally. In this world, perhaps only money won't betray you. I took away the first aid kit and returned to the study with a bottle of Stoli Illit. Abner watched silently as I mixed the drink and added ice cubes. I turned on the record player on the cabinet, and soft, low Italian music filled the room. I handed him the glass. What's this for? Creating an immersive heartbreak experience for you. Abner snorted. I'm not heartbroken. This is called cutting my losses in time. Abner took the glass and sniffed it, frowning slightly. What did you add? I sat down beside him and replied, orange juice. He seemed to mock me. This vodka costs $3,000 a bottle, and you're mixing it with orange juice. What a waste. Despite his words, he took a sip. A flash of pleasant surprise crossed his face. Abner coughed lightly. Not bad. I took a large gulp and then inhaled deeply. Phew. Abner looked at me in astonishment. You're so uncouth. I raised my glass to him. Try drinking it like this. It's really invigorating and stress-relieving. Abner looked utterly bewildered, but under my eager gaze, he imitated me and took a big gulp. I watched him intently. Phew, cough cough cough. I curved my lips slightly and gave him a thumbs up, not bad. He recovered and looked at me as if I were mad, muttering, "You're mental." I raised my glass and clinked it against his. 20 minutes later, we were drunkenly leaning on the sofa, the night outside the floor-to-ceiling windows becoming blurry. Abner's breathing grew heavier, his gaze unfocused, briefly lingering on me. "Becky, thank you." His words were interrupted by fireworks suddenly bursting outside the window. The lavish and intense fireworks instantly outshone the stars. Amidst the spectacular display of colors, I raised my glass to Abner again. "There's no shame in heartbreak. Here's to your happiness." Abner's smile seemed both distant and close, gradually blurring. After that night of drinking, things between Abner and me became rather strange. He started working overtime more often, as if deliberately distancing himself from me. But this situation didn't last long. Abner's mother invited us both over for dinner. Standing at the entrance of the Carlisle residence, I grabbed Abner's hand, intertwining our fingers. The sudden intimacy made him falter for a moment. I explained, Contract Clause 3. To participate in social events as Mrs. Carlisle and care for the elderly. He stared at our clasped hands for a while, then let out a small grunt with an upturned corner of his mouth before stepping inside. Our families have been friends for years. The elderly couple was overjoyed to see me. "You're here now, why bring anything?" "No need to be so formal. It's my first time accompanying Abner home. I've brought some PG tips and Scotch whiskey for Mom and Dad, just a small token of my appreciation," I said politely, handing over the prepared gifts. Abner glanced at me as if to say, "What nonsense is this? What do you mean by accompanying home?" But the elderly couple didn't seem to mind such details and accepted the gifts happily. Mrs. Carlisle gazed at our tightly clasped hands and sighed. "Oh my, Abner used to insist he'd never marry. Look at him now, all lovey-dovey." Abner tensed up, about to protest, but I didn't give him the chance. "Mom, if you keep looking, Abner might get embarrassed." Now Abner's face turned completely red, even his ears turning pink. "What nonsense are you spouting?" He let go of my hand and walked away. "The lad's just shy," I said, smoothing things over. His parents' awkwardness dissipated instantly. They looked as if they'd just had an epiphany and happily allowed me to usher them to the sofa. Then I sat cross-legged, chatting with his father about everything from the vegetable price to the financial crisis. His mother happily cut fruit nearby. "Becky, don't just chat, have some fruit." "Go on, have some." "Of course," I replied. By the time Abner returned from the loo, I had already finished a game of chess with his father and my pockets were stuffed with thick gift cards. Abner's face darkened as he pulled me aside. "It's one thing to con me, but conning my parents? Have you no shame? Mr. Carlisle, your parents' gifts to me are additional income, which is perfectly reasonable and legal." Abner's face turned ashen with anger. "Is money all you care about?" Just then, Mrs. Carlisle came out of the kitchen with the cut fruit, her eyes darting over curiously. I immediately stroked his arm. "Abner, dear, it's just a small gesture from Mom and Dad. We're family now, no need for such formalities. If you feel it's not independent enough to accept money from your parents, why don't you contribute a bit yourself? Buy Dad a car, get Mom some jewelry, and everything will be fine, won't it?" Mrs. Carlisle immediately ran off to tell her husband, overjoyed. "The young couple wants to buy you a car and me some jewelry. Having a daughter-in-law really does make a difference, doesn't it?" The sudden turn of events was too much for Abner, who looked like he might faint on the spot. I wrapped my arm around his waist. "Stay strong, hubby." Abner came back to life. "What did you call me?" "Hubby," I said without missing a beat. You have no shame," Abner said, his face reddening again as he went upstairs. "TSK, I've figured it out. Abner's character isn't just Sundara, he's also quite the blushing maiden." At dinner time, the table was laden with a feast. I kept my head down, focusing intently on picking out the fish bones from my plate. Suddenly, a piece of succulent fish appeared in my spoon. I turned my head to meet Abner's defiant gaze. You can't even deb one properly. Thank you, hubby, I smiled. Abner grunted, and from then on, my plate began to pile up like a small mountain. After a few rounds of drinks, Mr. Carlyle suddenly stood up. Becky, I know my son best. He can be quite temperamental, so please be patient with him. Let me toast to you. With that, he downed his glass of scotch in one go. I was shocked. I knew I might be considered the son-in-law in your family. But why was there still this wretched drinking culture? I hesitated. Dad, I'm not really in a position to. Mrs. Carlyle looked alarmed and quickly removed the knife and fork from in front of me. Mr. Carlyle looked confused. What's wrong? Becky and I haven't even started drinking yet. Mrs. Carlyle glared at him. Don't say another word. Then her face lit up with joy. Why didn't you tell us earlier that you were pregnant? Oh my, and you've been eating without any dietary restrictions. What? She couldn't resist touching my stomach. Oh my, what a blessing from our ancestors. I knew her thoughts had jumped too far, so I quickly clarified. No, that's not it. I'm not. Mrs. Carlyle's smile instantly froze. Well, then you two need to get on with it. Abner held his wine glass, a glimmer of amusement passing through his eyes at the unfolding drama. How could I possibly let such a golden opportunity pass? I eagerly grasped his hand. Darling, did you hear that? Mom wants you to get a move on. You're already 30 this year. Men over 30 experience a decline in sperm quality. It only gets worse with age. After dinner, Abner was called by his mum to have some extra nutrition with tonic. Hilarious. That night, Abner and I stood in silence, facing the large bed in the guest room. Silence was the Cambridge of tonight. We usually slept separately and had never encountered a situation like this before. Moreover, the bed was covered with rose petals. I asked Abner, "What does this mean?" Abner replied solemnly, "It means to seize the moment." I took a deep breath, pretending to be troubled. Mr. Carlyle, our contract clearly states that during its term, you cannot have any physical contact with me or... Woman, you don't really think I'm interested in you, do you? Even though Caroline dumped me, I'm not desperate enough to fancy just anyone. He added, and don't you dare try to take advantage of the situation. Perfect. Mr. Carlyle's thoughts were so easy to manipulate. If you want him to go west, tell him to go east, and then Mr. Carlyle will go west out of stubbornness. It works every time. I don't have trouble sleeping in unfamiliar beds, so I fell asleep quickly. But Abner kept tossing and turning endlessly beside me. I endured it for a while, but by his 800th sigh, I couldn't take it anymore. I rolled over and kicked the duvet off the bed to show my displeasure. Abner immediately clicked his tongue. He had the audacity to tut at me? After a while, Abner moved, shifting his body closer to me. I held my breath, feeling his face extremely close to mine. Then he mumbled, "She actually looks like a woman when she's asleep." What's that supposed to mean? Do you usually fantasize that I'm a man? I decided to have a chat with him. I reached out and turned on the bedside lamp with a click. The bright light revealed Abner standing on the bed, one foot wedged between my legs, looking as if he was about to get off the bed. His other foot was suspended in midair, unsure whether to step over or not. The atmosphere suddenly turned awkward. "Mr. Carlyle, what are you doing?" Abner remained silent for a long time, then stiffly raised his hands and resolutely stepped over me. Then, with a blank stare, he slowly moved towards the bathroom. "Mr. Carlyle, are you pretending to sleepwalk?" Abner's footsteps faltered as his ruse was exposed. He turned into the bathroom, and through the frosted glass wall, I saw his silhouette angrily punching the air. I couldn't help but laugh. The window is transparent. Abner turned his head in shock, his face flushing red with embarrassment. Then came the sound of his composure breaking. "Just go to sleep." I was greatly amused, rolled over, and picked up Abner's duvet. I yawned. "Good night, Mr. Carlyle." That night, I slept very soundly. After returning from the Carlyle residence, I became increasingly busy. My father's company was facing a cash shortage due to strategic issues. And the Carlyles were our only lifeline at the moment. The marriage alliance with Carlyle Corporation was initially formed to protect my father's life's work. With my father seriously ill in hospital and shareholders growing restless, I needed to use Carlyle's backing to prove to them that I was the most capable leader of the right family. I rushed between the hospital and the company, not seeing Abner for a long time. Until a week later, when I dragged my exhausted body back to the Carlyle home, I saw the living room lights on. Unusually, Abner was working downstairs. He sat cross-legged on the sofa, staring at his laptop, his thin lips pressed into a line. Seeing me come in, he looked up, a flash of joy crossing his face. "Mr. Carlyle," I nodded to him, calmly averting my gaze. Just as I was about to go upstairs, Abner called out to me with an odd expression. "Haven't you forgotten something?" I thought carefully. Ah, indeed. It wasn't so much forgetting as being too busy with work to want to come home and attend to my fake husband. Seeing my silence, he broke down, "My one-stop shopping mall service." I was nearly dead with exhaustion, and he wanted one-stop service. Nice idea. Don't think about it again in the future. It's like this, Mr. Carlyle. Your exclusive VIP experience has expired. If you wish to continue enjoying it, please top up your card. I smiled slightly. Previously, we opened the gold member mode for you. Now it's reverted to the standard mode. Abner's hand, holding a cigarette, trembled slightly. "I need to renew?" "Yes." Marriage as a one-time deal is the root of most people's marital problems. How could there be such a good thing as continuing to enjoy all the rights after marriage without needing to maintain it? That's not maintenance, that's extortion. I am indeed a manager. I took out the contract and slapped it in front of him, pointing at the large Party B characters, turning around gracefully. Whatever the case, I'm going to sleep now. How much do I need to top up? Abner's muffled voice came from behind. Did I hear that right? Abner tossed his black card onto the table. "Take it and swipe it yourself." He's really giving it? I carefully examined his expression. Back straight, maintaining the posture of a tycoon, but between his brows, he looked dejected, like a pitiful puppy. Suddenly, I felt he was quite cute. It made one want to comfort him. I smiled and took the black card. "All right, Mr. Carlyle. Choosing the highest level mode comes with a free limited edition figurine." Abner added on. "Excellent, Mr. Carlyle. Opting for the annual membership gives you an additional year of service of equal value." Abner, sign me up. Topping up £200,000 comes with a surprise mystery gift box. Abner, do it! How strange, why is he giving in so easily today? His stingy persona has completely collapsed. Abner muttered, "Whatever, it's for my own wife anyway." I suspected I was hearing things. "What did you say?" "Abner, I want to specify the limited edition figurine." I smiled very sincerely. "No problem, Mr. Carlyle." That's right, how could he possibly say something like that? I thought Abner would be difficult to deal with after he paid for VIP service. Surprisingly, he became unexpectedly gentlemanly, eating whatever I served, agreeing to everything, and not making many demands. It was a far cry from his fussy image during our wedding. He did, however, make some puzzling clingy requests. Like wanting to have dinner together. Or working together in the study. I was grateful he wasn't causing trouble, so I tried to accommodate these small requests. Recently, someone was offering high prices to buy shares from board members, and I naturally didn't want to be left behind. I arranged to meet Lloyd Baxter from the board, but unexpectedly he requested we meet at a karaoke bar. Recalling his usual lecherous demeanor, I couldn't help but cleanse my eyes by looking at Abner's private photos. However, I wasn't afraid of such minor situations. I still applied bright red lipstick and found the most dazzling bodycon spaghetti strap dress in my closet before heading out alone. The karaoke bar was playing sentimental oldies from the 80s. Under the dim lights, I smiled and handed the share subscription contract to Lloyd. But Lloyd held my hand, his chubby face plastered with an oily smile. "Becky dear, let's not talk about this now. Come, have a drink with Uncle Lloyd." I smiled coyly, taking the wine from his hand, and snapped my fingers. The waiter at our booth leaned in respectfully. I whispered a few instructions, and he nodded knowingly before leaving. A few minutes later, the waiter returned to our booth, followed by over a dozen handsome young men. They lined up, looking quite pleasing to the eye. I nodded. "I'll take them all." The boys immediately scrambled to sit beside us, calling me sister repeatedly. I couldn't help but smirk. Surrounded by men, Lloyd looked flustered. Becky, what is this? As a male model brought a drink to my lips, I took a small sip and said to Lloyd, Uncle Lloyd, it's trendy now to drink with boys. They're good-looking, sweet-talking, and can hold their liquor. Before Lloyd could protest, a lad had already sat on his lap, kissing him passionately. Well done. If he doesn't sign the contract, he won't be leaving this den of male sirens today. Just as I was feeling smug about my plan, the crowd suddenly parted. Abner appeared, his face dark with anger as he strode towards me. Before I could react, a young model next to me stood up and shoved Abner, shouting, Mate, that's not on. You can't just barge in and steal clients. Abner's eyes widened in disbelief. The young model was half a head shorter than him, both wearing suits, staring each other down. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Abner was concise, piss off. The young model raised his chin defiantly. But before he could say anything, security guards dragged him away. Seeing this, the others scattered quickly. Abner forcefully squeezed in beside me, pointing at the bewildered Lloyd, indignantly. You're not even sparing this type? I didn't know what information Abner had received, nor how he found this place. Mr. Carlyle, please don't make a scene. But Lloyd was displeased, immediately smashing a glass. What's your problem, boy? Abner lunged at him. They instantly began grappling, with Abner grabbing his collar. That's my bloody wife. When they were separated, Lloyd's face was swollen in several places. He stared at Abner, wiping blood from his nose, his expression fearful. Abner raised his fist, and Lloyd's neck jerked back instinctively. Then he glared at me fiercely. Becky Wright, don't even think about getting your hands on my shares ever again. I watched helplessly as Lloyd left, supported by security guards. What kind of wastrel was Abner? He still didn't understand the situation, his brow furrowed with disheveled hair. What shares? I stood up angrily, ready to leave. Abner followed, trying to grab my hand, but I shook him off without looking back. As we reached the bar's entrance, Abner called out loudly, Becky. I turned around to see him looking somewhat hurt, cradling his hand. I'm injured too. I snorted coldly, if you don't go to the hospital soon, those wounds will heal on their own. Seeing me soften, Abner took off his jacket and draped it over me. You're a married woman now, dressing like this to come to a karaoke bar. I came for business. He was a CEO after all. Probably realizing what I was doing, he hesitantly tugged at me. I shook off his hand. He grabbed it again. I shook it off. He grabbed it. Let go. I need to answer my phone. Okay. I took out my phone, only to see several missed calls. From the hospital. I called back, and upon hearing what was said, I began to tremble, clutching Abner's arm. To the hospital, quick! I stood frozen at the entrance of the operating theater, my body numb with cold. Abner pressed his hand on my shoulder. Why don't you go and rest for a bit? You've been standing here motionless for an hour. I kept my eyes fixed on the door. He sighed softly, staying by my side. When the theater doors finally opened, I rushed forward to see my father lying motionless on the hospital bed, tubes protruding from his body. Tears immediately welled up in my eyes, but before I could take a proper look, they wheeled him away. My body went limp, and Abner quickly caught me, holding me in his arms. The lead surgeon removed his mask, his face covered in sweat. He's out of immediate danger, but we'll need to keep him in the ICU for a few days for observation. I thanked him and followed along. Through the glass wall, I saw my once superhero father, who had always shielded me from life's storms, lying there lifeless. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. My mother had passed away when I was very young, and my father had raised me single-handedly, playing the role of both mom and dad. The words he said to me most often were that I needed to make him proud. He told me that girls were no different from boys, and that I needed to be independent to survive in this competitive society. I'd been reading contracts since primary school and drafting business proposals by secondary school. My dad told me that he had built the right empire from scratch, and I was his only daughter. I'm grateful for his gender-neutral upbringing, which has made me who I am today. But how did he suddenly become so old? Abner wiped away my tears, his eyes filled with concern and confusion. Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? With my father down, everyone sees Wright Corp as a piece of meat ripe for the taking. I'm the only pillar left in the family. I couldn't trust anyone. Abner held my shoulders, turning me to face him. So, you married me for the company. To you, marriage is just another part of business, isn't it? I paused for a moment before answering, indeed, it is. I thought Abner would say something sarcastic. Instead, he pulled me into his embrace, his voice low and magnetic in my ear. Becky, you like business, and you like money. I'm loaded. Why don't you try liking me? I was stunned. Abner continued, don't worry about the shares. I'll take care of it. In return, I want to cancel that marriage contract. After saying this, he patiently held my hand, keeping vigil with me outside the ICU all night. Abner kept his word. A week later at the shareholders' meeting, he stormed in with his team and calmly announced that he had acquired the remaining shares from other shareholders. In one swift move, he became the largest shareholder after my father. With the absolute protection of Carlyle Corporation, no one dared to covet Wright family's assets anymore. Father was also transferred from the ICU to a regular ward. Everything was moving in a positive direction, and I finally had time to address the matter between Abner and myself. In the conference room of Wright Group, Abner and I sat facing each other. I leaned back casually in the leather chair. Mr. Carlyle, do you remember what you said to me outside the ICU? Abner twirled his pen smugly. Mrs. Carlyle, would you like me to repeat it? I smiled. Mr. Carlyle, let's not get too familiar just yet. I opened my laptop and sent a document to the secretary. A few minutes later, Abner held the freshly printed contract, gritting his teeth. Well, the marriage contract is cancelled and replaced with a courtship agreement? I grinned. Mr. Carlyle, our previous discussion was about business. Matters of love come at a different price. Abner tossed the contract on the table. You're heartless. I just helped you deal with those wolves, and now you're asking me for money. I pushed the contract towards him, speaking seriously. You can read the contract first. A shrewd businessman like yourself, with such foresight and strategy, wouldn't miss this opportunity. Flattery won't work on me. Even if I starve to death or jump out of this window, I won't look at this contract. Mr. Carlyle, you've been in business for years, but your tactics seem to have become conservative. I chuckled, taking back the contract. But I understand, it's natural to have reservations about things you're not confident about. Abner snatched the contract from my hand, quickly scanned it, and looked shocked. The contract period adopts a point system, where Party B can earn corresponding points by completing various challenges set by Party A. Every 100 points can be exchanged for a reward. I smiled. Do you have any objections? This reward refers to. That depends on your performance. I unbuttoned the top 2 buttons of my blouse in front of Abner and flipped my hair. Abner, preposterous. Indecent. Vulgar. Utterly shameless. Abner, give me the pen, quickly. I smiled as I handed him the pen. He scrawled his name in a flourish and hastily pressed his fingerprint. The challenges I set were quite simple. Perhaps a bit childish and trivial for a domineering billionaire who conquers the business world. But I didn't expect Abner to be even more childish than I imagined. For instance, changing our couple profile pictures. Abner argued with me for half an hour about why he got Jerry instead of Tom. Another example, making our relationship official on social media. He grabbed my phone and put it next to his, insisting on comparing who got more likes at the same time. A few days later, at the dinner table, he asked me to tally up the points with a gleeful expression. Meeting his eager gaze, I calmly said, Mr. Carlyle, congratulations on accumulating 99.99 points. You're just one step away from claiming your reward. Abner smiled. What's the reward? I touched my lips and saw Abner's face turn red. Abner, what's the last step? Tell me. Post the content of this challenge on social media. Once you get 100 likes, you can successfully claim your reward. Abner frowned, opened his phone, and started calling his friends. This wasn't difficult for him. With so many workgroup chats, he could easily share and collect the likes. When he reached the 99th like, I covered his mouth as he was about to let out an excited squeal. Congratulations on collecting 99 likes. The last like needs to be activated with a challenge coin. Abner, what? Don't worry, it's just one challenge coin. Victory is within reach. Abner, fine, how do I get a challenge coin? Share the challenge content with your friends again, collect their well wishes. For each one collected, you'll receive 0.01 coins. Abner, what? Or perhaps you'd prefer another method, drawing a cash-out card. I'll prepare 100 cards for you. You can purchase the right to draw cards. If you draw all the letters spelling out cash-out card, you can combine them into one word. Abner, stop. Abner, are you messing with me? At this rate, I'll always be one step away from cashing out. This is a very mature operating model in the market. You shouldn't have such doubts. Abner frowned, glaring fiercely at my mouth. I raised both hands to my chest, making an X. Using violence will result in a deduction of points. You. Abner stood up. You're something else. Just you wait. I calmly tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, noted. That night, Abner was in the living room, scratching his head as he drew cards. I changed into my workout clothes, tied my hair in a ponytail, and went out for a night run. Before closing the door, I heard Abner's muffled reminder, come back early. I curled my lips into a smile and ran down the small slope. Everything around was silent, only the soft rustling of my sportswear could be heard. After a while, suspicious footsteps came from behind. Under the streetlight, I saw a figure approaching me. Just as I was about to turn around, I felt a sharp chop to the back of my neck. Before losing consciousness, I caught a glimpse of a familiar tattooed arm swinging in front of my eyes. I awoke to find myself on a beach, tightly bound and lying in the dirty sand. A pale full moon hung high in the sky, and through the salty sea breeze, I saw Caroline's contorted face. The tattooed man stood behind her. Caroline gripped a knife and stumbled towards me. Becky Wright, you're not even a lesbian. You stole Mr. Carlyle and tricked me out of my house. I calmly replied, I paid for it. How is that trickery? But that area is going to be developed into a tourist attraction. Caroline shrieked. The essence of business is information asymmetry, darling, I shook my head. We're even now. Caroline glared at me hatefully. What about Mr. Carlyle? If it weren't for you, he wouldn't have left me. I looked at the tattooed man, who was lighting a cigarette. Hey, your woman is mentioning another man right in front of you, and you have no reaction? Caroline stepped forward and kicked me hard. Stop trying to drive a wedge between us. I spat out sand. I don't know what Caroline has planned with you, but whatever she's offering, I'll give you 10 times more. That man perked up and walked towards me. I continued, a fickle woman like her, if you trust her, you're sending yourself straight to prison. Caroline panicked instantly. Don't forget what you promised me, she hissed. Kidnapping is a serious crime, not like your usual petty offenses. Think carefully. Let me go, and I'll give you enough money to last a lifetime. I won't press charges. Caroline suddenly spun around and lunged at me, pressing the knife to my throat. Say one more word and I'll kill you. I laughed coldly, staring at her trembling hand. Do you dare? Caroline's eyes were red-rimmed. She pressed harder, and I felt a chill on my neck. Just then, the tattooed man grabbed Caroline's hair and yanked her away. Ah! Caroline screamed as he tossed her aside. He crouched in front of me and held up his phone screen, showing a bank account number. He grinned maliciously. Transfer £5 million to this account and I'll let you go immediately. Fred! How dare you? Caroline lunged at him with bloodshot eyes. But he slapped her to the ground and snatched the knife from her hand. I gestured for Fred to take my phone from my pocket and took a deep breath. Help me make a call. £3 million will be transferred right away. The rest, I'll send once I'm somewhere safe. Fred grabbed my throat menacingly. You're in no position to negotiate. I said coldly, do as I say, or you won't get a penny. Fred pressed the knife to my face. Is that so? Let's see how much you value this pretty face of yours. He pressed the blade harder. A sharp pain shot through my face as I furrowed my brow, mind racing. Suddenly, piercing sirens blared behind us. Police car headlights illuminated Fred and Caroline's pale faces. They exchanged a glance, dropped the knife, and fled towards the rocks. Screech! Brakes squealed as cars skidded to a stop. Some officers pursued them with guns drawn. Don't move! The rest surrounded me. I struggled to my feet and saw Abner running towards me. I'd never seen him so disheveled. His face was sweaty, eyes red-rimmed as he fumbled to untie me. Then he pulled me into his arms. I hugged him back, feeling him tremble violently. He kept kissing my hair and dirty face, his voice shaky. It's all right now. I'm sorry I was late, Becky. Abner buried his face in my neck, warm tears flowing. My vision blurred too. In a daze, I seemed to return to that sweltering summer day of my childhood. Little Abner, drenched in sweat, had finally caught the blue-patterned butterfly I wanted. What did he say back then? Oh, he puffed out his chest, flashing a gap-toothed grin, and declared, Becky, you should marry me when we grow up. I promise I'll catch you even more butterflies. My heart suddenly tightened. Looking at the disheveled man before me now, I felt 1,000 butterflies take flight in my chest. Epilogue. Abner and I sat facing each other once again. I tossed 2 contracts onto the coffee table. Abner collapsed onto the sofa, exasperated. Not more contracts. I glanced at him, and he immediately sat up straight. I'll sign them. I'll sign any contract for 100 years, 200 years, for 800 lifetimes. Abner scooted his bum closer to me, leaning on my shoulder and sucking up. Whatever my wife says goes. I rolled my eyes at him. I slowly picked up the contracts. Take a closer look at what kind of contracts these are. He peered at them. Prenup? Courtship agreement? Aren't these the ones from before? I smiled. Rip. The papers shredded in my hands. Abner was stunned. Darling, what does this mean? Are you not renewing our contract? Why? I'm such a good client, please reconsider. I covered his mouth with my hand. Hush. Abner, silent obedience. I smiled and leaned in to gently bite his chin. Be good. We're going to be husband and wife for 80 years. The term is too long, so you'll have to sign with your whole life. I kissed Abner softly, flashing a mischievous smile. Let this serve as the seal. His response was a passionate kiss in return. Abner sucked on my lips, his voice barely a whisper, as you wish, Mrs. Carlyle. Our entwined silhouettes melted together on the sofa as torn paper scattered across the floor.